Hey y'all, it is Monday morning and we are so excited that you're here. We are really thrilled actually today because we are kicking off a brand new virtual event series. Our virtual event series that we're kicking off today is Thought Exchange Masterclass. This series is going to help you become a Thought Exchange expert. And if you're a current client, you're wanting to deepen your knowledge about Thought Exchange, you're wanting to really make sure that you're utilizing the platform to make you the best leader that you can be, to make sure your organization is the best organization that it can be. This is the series for you. So we're so excited to have you joining us today. We're going to be presenting with Steve Anderson today. He is a master expert, so that's perfect. And he's going to talk to us about understanding your why. Before we jump into that, Steve, if you'll go to the next one, we want to invite you to join the conversation outside of Thought Exchange virtual event series. We want to invite you to join the conversation on your social media platform of choice. LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is. If you join the conversation, any golden nuggets you want to highlight, we want you to use these hashtags. Hashtag TEVE, right? We should call this must see TEVE, or hashtag TE Masterclass, because this is the new series for all of our TE experts. Also, if you want to join the conversation while you're in here, go ahead and jump into the chat. Let us know anything that pops up. Let us know who you are, where you're joining us from, what you're hoping to get out of this masterclass series. We're excited for this to be an interactive session. Okay, now that we've covered that, if you'll go to the next one for me, Steve. I want to introduce you to our presenter today. With over 6 years of experience between different teams here at Thought Exchange, Steve is a senior engagement consultant who helps our clients develop a strategic approach to their long-term exchange planning and to optimize the value that they get from their exchanges. So, of course, he is the perfect guy to be leading this masterclass series. He has a broad range of experience, including teaching and training, project management, product design and development, web design, personal coaching, and group facilitation. He thrives on bringing creative insights and fresh perspectives to every situation, which his family is still learning to fully appreciate. We're so excited to have you here, Steve. Thanks so much.
Great to be here. Thank you, Angela. And I am really looking forward to doing this session because this is the thing that I keep coming back to with so many of our clients when they want to get more value from their exchanges. Knowing and sharing your purpose or your why will be one of the main things that makes your results really come alive and gives you and your participants a clear path of action to make genuine, sustainable progress. And it's sustainable because people buy into the path where you're going.
That's great, Steve. I think you're right. This is why we're starting with the virtual event series with this understanding your why, because really this is the foundation of everything you need to be building off of as you move forward with the Thought Exchange platform, both as a leader and in your organization. So we're so excited to have you here to lead us through that. We're discussing a couple of things today, guys. This is what you can look forward to learning: the opportunity to use your why to lead, making progress with leadership, participants, and your organization by understanding that why, and then how you set the context, how your setting and your context can inform your why. So Steve's going to lead us through all of those things, and I'm not going to keep talking so that we can jump right into the learning, Steve. So please take us through these 3 big points. We're excited to dive in.
Perfect. So the first one, the opportunity to use your why to lead. So you're not just developing yourself as a leader when you run an exchange, you're also developing leadership in your participants. You're modeling a shared, inclusive leadership style. And so that's one of the things that will connect to your why. The next thing, making progress with leadership, participants, and your organization by understanding your why. So always be thinking about the benefits to each of these 3 groups. What's the benefit to these? So we're going to peel back kind of layers of the why behind that and uncover some reasons for why you would run an exchange at kind of different levels there. And then the final 3rd one is how the setting or context can inform your why. So knowing the landscape you're launching your exchange into helps you set realistic expectations for your participants, and it helps to deepen the receptivity to the progress you want to make. So it's also going to help you shape your why so that it's appropriate for the situation.
That's great. Okay.
So let's look at the leadership opportunity here. So an exchange is not just sharing and receiving information. You're not just gathering data on a topic. Exchanges provide a place where people get an opportunity to lead in some fashion. So the participants are actually developing their leadership in a way. So the engaging nature of an exchange, that in and of itself helps to build leadership capabilities in others, because it includes them as collaborators with you as a leader and helps them articulate their perspectives effectively and helps them listen to and learn from each other.
That's great. So Steve, what you're saying is that not only does it help you as a leader ensure that you are being inclusive in your decision-making process, but it's also modeling that behavior for the people in your organization so that they not just attribute you to that inclusive leadership, but they become more inclusive leaders themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, you're nurturing that leadership in them. So that's exactly what good leaders do, is right. They help build other leaders as well. So the other thing behind this is knowing the why behind the progress you want to make will help you stay in a more proactive position. So rather than being reactive, which often happens in social media platforms, when you connect others with your whys of what you want to accomplish and communicate those things clearly with them and openly, people naturally want to engage with you, and you're crowdsourcing their knowledge, their experience, their perspectives, and those things are going to guide and substantiate really your decisions and the directions you take as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dig in a little bit more to how understanding your why can help you make progress. So this is kind of like the first layer of the onion. If your topic is the first layer, a lot of people come at their exchanges with a topic in mind, and they want to know, and we need to connect you with your why in order for it to be more meaningful and purposeful for people. So these 6 reasons are 6 purposes we've identified as common ones that people run exchanges for.
Oh, I see. Okay, great. This is lovely.
Yeah, so these are different than outcomes. You want to know what your outcomes are as well. What do you want to get out of the results? But these are the things you'll be doing in an exchange. It's not just, oh, we're going to gather data. That will happen, and these other things are going to happen. So if we were to take staff morale as an example, and you had a proposal on the table for an initiative to improve staff morale, let's say, you better have already been in the planning stage at some point. You better have a good understanding of what climate you're jumping into there before you run an exchange with a proposal in it. So be clear on where you are in these 6 different steps, and you may be doing more than one of these at a time too.
So I'm curious to know, Steve, you talked about like before you put a proposal down, make sure you're really clear on the planning process. Would you say that these 6 are kind of, you would recommend a sequence of this, or do these live kind of mutually exclusive and it's really up to the leader to know which one is best suited for them?
Yeah, great question. And there is certainly some strategy to doing these in an order depending on the topic. Not all of these steps would be necessary for every topic you engage in. So there's not really a sequence here per se, but probably you want to do some planning and maybe some reflecting and understanding before you put a proposal on the table, or especially before you announce something, right? Hey, we're doing this and hope you're on board. You don't want that kind of feel, right? So you're wanting to bring people along with you. So think about which of these whys or purposes you want to do to bring people along into and include them in your leadership.
And so, just so we're clear, guys, if you are stuck and you're not really sure where you're at in the process or what that is, Steve is somebody that you can absolutely work with to help you decide which is the best place to begin with. And then, of course, you've got your engagement your engagement coaches or your client success managers can kind of help everybody with this, right, Steve?
Absolutely. Yeah, we all work pretty seamlessly as a team here, so don't hesitate. Don't worry about who you're reaching out to. Even we all think along these same lines, like, why are you doing this? What do you want to get out of it? And we'll help coach you through those things. So please do feel free to reach out. Let's look at another layer deeper here. So these are kind of what I would consider maybe more surface level wise in a way. And so what are the benefits that you want to bring to the various groups. Remember, I mentioned earlier, leadership, participants, and organizations. So let's look at those. What are the whys behind that is actually going to benefit? So in this case, you as a leader, what are the things you're getting? So connect your participants with the benefits you're receiving as well as benefits for them. Okay. So you aren't just engaging about a topic here, right? When you clearly and transparently state which of these whys you're focusing on and those that are most important to you, it's a way to help you become a better leader who inspires trust, who's more inclusive, and you'll create feelings of ownership in your participants. So, of course, an exchange will prioritize the actions. That's what exchanges do. And when everyone is aware of why something is being done, the action steps become way more obvious in your exchange results.
That's great. Yeah. So knowing your why and really positioning it that way before you run the exchange actually benefits you as a leader to help you make clear action after the exchange is complete.
Definitely, yeah. And we'll actually, in our future masterclass sessions, we'll dig into that even in more detail, looking at the Discover step in particular about how you can do that. So this is kind of the precursor to that.
Lovely.
Yeah. So let's look at how your why can benefit your participants. So again, you're not just asking for information or feedback here. You are authentically providing opportunities for those participants to feel heard, to learn from each other, to feel like they belong really in your circle of influence, and they will feel appreciation that their perspectives actually matter to you. You need to spell it out for them. Don't be shy about just saying it overtly in all your communications, in the introduction of the exchange, in the invite to the exchange, in any promotional materials you're doing. Help people, the participants, connect with your why so they know what's in it for them, and it doesn't feel like a heavy lift or an ask all the time. That's going to reduce survey fatigue and help them engage over the long term.
I think that that's such great advice, Stephen. I'm so glad you said that, encouraging our leaders to not feel shy about overtly saying, we want you to feel like you're heard. We want to hear from you. We want you to have ownership over this new initiative. We want you to learn from each other. We want you to feel appreciated through these means. That's why we're doing that. I think we sometimes as leaders want to kind of, say those things in a roundabout way, but sometimes people just need to be told that exactly, and then they really genuinely can hear it.
Yeah. Sometimes we assume, I think, people know why we're doing something as leaders, and that's not always a safe assumption to make. So make sure you're some people may already know that, but make sure you're including it in your communication so that everybody knows it. It's about being inclusive here. Mm-hmm. And then finally, transforming your organization. So what does that look like at the organizational level? When exchanges are used strategically over time, where you link them together in a meaningful way, they can literally transform the culture within your organization so that listening and learning, trust and transparency, innovation and change, those kinds of things become a part of the fabric of your organization. They become integral to your culture. And when you communicate that as part of your why, people start to look for these changes. They're trying to recognize the thing that you're pointing out to them. So if I said, make sure you notice that purple light bulb on the right of the screen, chances are most of you are going to be looking at it. And it's the same with cultural shifts. If you point them out to people, they're going to start focusing their attention on there and start noticing when those things are happening.
That's so great, Steve. I just want to highlight that. I think that, I always like to say small baby steps make miracles. And when you're talking about, changing the culture of an organization, it's these small things, always pointing out how you want to be creating this inclusive environment through the use of each exchange is a baby step to changing that DNA of an organization, and being sure that you're highlighting that for them, I think makes those baby steps sometimes turn into giant steps.
Yes.
So yeah, keep doing that. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, you aren't going to change an organizational culture overnight. But if you have that clear direction where you're headed and help point others in that same direction, that's how you get there, little by little.
That's great.
Let's look at the context now, or the landscape that you might be launching exchanges into. So I don't want to sound like Captain Obvious here, but you can't transform anything if you're in a little bubble as a leader. So you need to be super aware of the context here. This purple triangle here is a model about showing how your whys can be appropriate to the setting in which you're trying to make progress. So when you do this, you're going to be seen as more empathetic. You're going to be seen as in touch with the needs and perceptions of others. You'll be keeping things more real and grounded in what is, and you'll hit fewer brick walls along the way. If you want your exchange results to be most useful, knowing where you are in the spectrum is going to help you know which action steps are most applicable to where you are right now. Mm-hmm. The thing to tie this back to the why, though, you can actually use this model to help you understand your why if you're unsure what it is. So if you can see where you sit on this spectrum, your fundamental why is going to become more clear. So those arrows on the right and left there, high trust, low trust, shared leadership, centralized leadership, those are two, although not the only, indicators of where you might be on this spectrum. So high amount of shared leadership and trust, you can probably operate more on this inspiring level of things. And this is true not only for organizations as a whole, but it might be just the culture within a particular team or even a committee.
This is great.
Yeah, so be looking where you are on this is not only going to inform your why, but it's also going to help you craft your question. So for instance, if you were talking about improving staff morale, a stabilizing question might be, oh, what are some challenges you would like our leadership team to be aware of as we renegotiate your employment contract? That's kind of like, let's just get things settled a little bit here before we dig into the more inspiring things. So an inspiring level question might be, what are some things we could do together to ensure that our company is the best place you've ever worked? That sounds pretty inspiring to me.
Yeah. Yeah. This is very Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but in the context of organizational change and leadership.
Yeah. And just to emphasize too, that communicating, your communication about the results will also change depending on where you are in this model. And we'll, again, go into that in future master classes, whether we're talking about promotional materials, whether we're talking about the Discover dashboard, but we'll get into more and more of that.
Great. This is so helpful. Just to be clear, Steve, we're going to be sharing this out. I know some of our participants are probably going, this is great. How can I reference this as we move forward? Don't worry. Steve's going to send this all to you, all these resources to you afterwards as well.
Yeah, happy to. So what does this look like in practice? Your whys are communicating that your whys, the ones that are most important to you, are related to the topics, of course, but being able to connect that to the why is going to help you connect people so that you are more likely to accomplish your intended outcome. You want to always be thinking about, how can I connect my stakeholders with this? How can I connect our organization with these bigger whys and get us all moving in a singular direction? Okay, so as we talked about earlier, you're not just collecting data here, you're building leadership skills, right? While giving an opportunity for participants to practice their leadership with you. When you share your whys, you're giving them really powerful reasons to continue to be engaged and to articulate their perspectives well. And when you show participants the why behind the intended progress and highlight the actions you want to implement, it's going to help keep the interest high from your participants. It's going to help you connect multiple topics with some common threads. And maybe they're the cultural threads, or maybe they're the leadership, organizational kinds of threads. You're going to be able to encourage ongoing participation. You can avoid the one and done feel. You don't want just an exchange to be sitting out there, yeah, we got that information, now we're done, like, great.
And it's out there in the abyss and no one hears about it again.
Exactly. Then it starts feeling like surveys that often the results go unshared afterwards, right? Mm. So in addition to building leadership, we talked about the importance of explaining your why in terms of the benefits to you as a leader, to your participants, and to your organization. And then finally, in that transformational leadership triangle, we saw that the outcomes from an exchange are more likely to provide a benefit when your why is appropriate to the context or the setting surrounding the situation.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So now I'd like to have you all participate. I'm practicing my y'alls,
I
Angela.
love it. Oh my God, my heart just fluttered when you did it, Steve.
I want us all to participate in exchange. For those of you who haven't participated in exchange, which I'm kind of assuming maybe that all of you on this call have, but there are 3 steps: share, star, and discover. And so we'd like you to participate by sharing your thoughts, by rating the thoughts of others, and then we'll all look at the results together in the discover step.
Great.
And here's how you can join that exchange. You saw this slide before, but you probably didn't get the information down then. So use either one of this bit.ly link, or you can go to thoughtexchange.com/join and enter this 9-digit code, or you can use your phone to click on this QR code with your camera, and that should give you the option to pop right in there too. So I'll leave this up for a minute or two while everyone gets into the exchange. And the question we're going to be asked is, what are your thoughts or questions about this session, understanding your why? So I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions, and thoughts too. Certainly, I haven't covered everything here, so if you think there's something critical that I've missed, I would love to hear those things as well, but happy to talk through some questions afterwards too. I'm going to be quiet here for a minute. Angela has promised to be quiet too. And we'll let you participate, and then we'll come back together in a few minutes and look at the results together.
Okay, Steve, we've got about 5 more minutes. Do you want to just hop in?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely.
We can jump here. Do you want to jump to the top thoughts?
I think that'll be great. Let's jump to the top thoughts.
Okay.
And a lot of these are still pending, which is great. I appreciate you guys going in. The real benefit of this virtual events series too is not necessarily those who are joining us live. We're so excited that you're here. But also remember, guys, as attendees, you can share this link with anyone and everyone in your organization as they're pondering whether or not they want to become leaders themselves with Thoughtexchange, or they already are leaders and they want to deepen their understanding. So we're really excited to dive into this. Talk to me about any suggestions or easy strategies to build a series of exchanges based on your progress. This is a great question, Steve. What do you recommend?
So a recommendation here is probably difficult to make without understanding a little bit more about what you're hoping to accomplish. So just suggesting a series when I don't know necessarily what you're going to do. This is a lot of what our coaches and myself will do for you and with you, is help you talk through what's your starting point and where do you want to end up down the road here. Mm-hmm. So we're always happy to have those conversations. We love those strategic conversations, and welcome any reach outs that you want to make to dig into that a little more. With that said, we also have some, I'll say, more common approaches to things like strategic planning that we do all the time with organizations. We with school districts who are involved in facilities funding, we have a sequence that works well for the organizations that we have worked with on that. It's not that there's no order that would be helpful. It's just that we need to be a little bit more, we need to know a little bit more about what we'd be digging into.
Yeah, I think you're right, Steve. The benefit is that by working with Thoughtexchange, you have a number of people at your availability that have worked with hundreds of school districts, thousands of school districts across the nation who have had the same or similar challenges. And so we start to recognize a pattern or a roadmap, so to speak, on how to work through whatever challenges you may be facing as a leader or an organization. And so, but to Steve's point, you're going to have to know a little bit more before we can prescribe anything.
Yeah, and I will go back to the transformational leadership purple triangle model too. So looking at that, where do we sit on this issue? Are we more in the stabilizing mode? Are we trying to grow communications and collaboration? Or are we just getting people to the next level, inspiring them in an aspirational sort of way? So that can also help you create a series. Whether that series that you think is going to happen progresses at that same rate, just be continuing to tie it back to that why and that context and going back to those fundamental whys will help you create that strategy.
Okay, we're almost against time, Steve, but I wanted to ask these two quick questions before we go. How can you use your why to decide who to invite to participate? I think that's a great question we should dive into. And then how do you establish your why?
Yeah, so excellent question. Why on who to participate? And I would probably direct you back to that slide where we had the 6 different purposes for why you want to do that. So consider who you're going to include in those. For a planning exchange, for instance, you might have a smaller group that's involved in the planning process, whereas an announcing one, you want everybody who is a stakeholder related to that topic to know, right? So include all of them in that case. So that can be a good reference point for you. Obviously, the stabilizing, growing, inspiring triangle, that can also be another reference point for who to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other question you wanted me to hit on?
Establishing your why.
Okay, why? How do you establish your why? So establishing your why, don't think of it like, oh, there's one huge purpose that I have to know. I mean, it can be a little bit daunting, like knowing your life purpose, and it's not a forever thing. Like, know your purpose for that exchange.
Mm-hmm.
You can link it to a longer term strategy. That's bonus points. But if you at least know what your why is for a particular exchange and communicate it super clearly, that's going to get you connected to your participants.
That's great, Steve. I can't thank you enough, guys, for both attending this session and participating in this exchange. Steve, I want to give a special thanks to you. I think we've learned a ton with you here. I feel so excited that we're kicking off this virtual event with this really super important foundational lesson of partnering with Thoughtexchange to all help us become better leaders. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Angela. It's been great to be able to, I love the opportunity to talk about this with you today, and happy to stick around here afterwards too, to chat with anyone who wants a little more personal coaching around this or about just creating an exchange in general.